Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Judy Teven, and with me is Melissa Sinanu from Classworks and Heather Haugsey from AimsWeb Plus. Today, we are so excited to talk to you about something that's coming up in all of our discussions with school leaders, and that is summer school. Now, before we get started, I do want you to know that we're going to be recording this session and we'll send it out to all who registered. If you have questions during the webinar, please just go ahead and put them in our chat. Our teams are there ready to field them. And we also have a Q&A at the end of the session to address any additional questions. And here at Classworks, we're especially excited to be co-presenting with our AimsWeb partners to talk about summer school today.
Yep, we are super excited about our newest partnership, which is AimsWeb Plus by Pearson. Classworks takes the data that is provided from the AimsWeb Plus assessments and puts it to work by individualizing learning for every student automatically. So today we will specifically focus on the two programs working together this summer. All right, let's get started talking summer school. So summer school is more important than ever this year. In today's webinar, we will discuss how so many school districts are structuring summer school and what they hope to accomplish during this important time before heading into the 2021-22 school year. We'll review some of the more concrete plans that we're collaborating on with districts as they finalize summer school. So this includes establishing goals, determining who attends, the role of data, individualizing learning, and then an instructional focus on essential skills, summer learning and IEP goals, the social and emotional needs of students, and finally, a sample schedule.
So first, what is your goal for summer school? As much as everyone talked about the learning loss and the COVID slide, your summer goals are likely very much broader than simply just closing learning gaps, right? So, for example, many districts we spoke with said that after more than a year out of the classroom, student well-being is an integral part of their summer school plans. Now, they also said that they may even have different goals for different groups of students. So your program will likely have a variety of learners, from students with disabilities to your RTI tier students to students who just need to catch up on skills that they missed. Now, it may be hard to picture what a day actually looks like, so we thought it'd be super helpful to put together an example of what a summer school day schedule might look like. So we're going to be covering that in detail in a little bit later in our presentation.
So here is a partial list of the summer school objectives we heard. Help students reacclimate to school and peers in the classroom. This includes student goal setting and the opportunity to engage with their teacher for ongoing feedback as they work toward achieving goals that they've set for the summer. Maybe small group remediation of essential skills that large groups of students struggle to learn. Closing specific learning gaps for those that weren't able to regularly participate in remote learning. Maybe teaching prerequisite skills for the hard to learn skills that are part of the upcoming year's curriculum. Then the final goal we heard is continuing virtual options like Classworks throughout the summer. Now, certainly tons of our partners use Classworks individualized learning to close learning gaps remotely or avoid the traditional summer slide for students across the country.
And even though that last goal is a great way to use Classworks this summer, today's webinar really is going to focus on that in-person summer school and making that a successful endeavor, really rewarding experience for really both your students and your staff. Now, admittedly, most people we spoke with are placing an emphasis in three places: student social and emotional well-being, closing those learning gaps, and ensuring readiness for this upcoming school year. So once your goals are established, let's think about who's attending. Now, unlike previous years, all grades are likely participating in the summer school. Many summer school programs are geared toward your at-risk students, but open to all students. So this basically means that you're extending that school year for those who need it, right? So students who have chronic absenteeism during the year are another significant group to target for summer learning. Now, and if you have door-to-door community outreach for students slipping through those cracks, take time now to talk to families about summer school. If possible, try to discover what the obstacles are for attending summer school so that money could be put toward finding a solution. And your students with disabilities, they have been most adversely impacted by the pandemic and definitely need to be part of your summer program.
That's right. Most summers, students with disabilities participate in an extended school year program, or ESY, but this summer, many special education students will participate in general ed summer programs. Inclusion like this has some benefits. The level of inclusion with students with disabilities is a strong indicator of academic growth. So the greater the level of inclusion, like 80% or more a day, the greater the rate of academic growth. And we are all looking forward to seeing growth this summer. So next, a topic that has been much discussed, and that is the role of data in summer school. First, there is the data to determine who will attend summer school. Many systems are using a combination of grades, maybe AimsWeb spring screening scores, and even absenteeism to determine who will receive priority invitations to participate in in-person summer learning options. And if you decide to pre and post test, using an assessment like AimsWeb Plus allows you to set growth goals for every student and track it throughout the summer program. Heather is here to describe the cycle in more detail.
In AimsWeb Plus, we refer to an assessment cycle, and this is used for risk analysis, which is really key to instructional planning. And then progress monitoring is key to analyzing and adjusting interventions as you go. The data that we supply within AimsWeb Plus is going to be measurable and informative to the needs of both your groups of students and to individual students. So if you've already been collecting benchmark data across the school year, usually people do this fall, winter, and spring, the data from your spring benchmarking can help you to plan your instruction and interventions for your summer school. Students that are most at risk are progress monitored on a more frequent basis, and then you can determine if their interventions are effective or not. And progress monitoring data is helpful to determine instructional needs that need to be addressed at any point along the way. So you're informed every day. So next, I'm going to quickly show you just a few of the reports that we use in AimsWeb Plus for analyzing risk. And then we will get more detailed and more in-depth. And we can certainly give you more information if you need that. The tier transition report and benchmark comparison reports can help you to analyze risk for groups of students. And so you're going to be seeing improvements that you've made all the way across the school year. So on here, you're going to see fall, winter to spring. And this is where you're going to start. So you can use this data when you're planning your summer school. Just refer to a report like you see on the right-hand side to really determine who those students are and to make groups of students. And then as you dive a little deeper into instructional planning, you can be sure to use and note our student strengths and needs across their profile. Our skill-based measures can help you see on the spot what areas or groups of students need to work on. So some of the standards-based measures, things like reading comprehension, math, concepts and applications, those should be analyzed further by looking at student reports, which I'll show you a few examples next. So we have planning instruction made a little easier when you view reports like this scores snapshot report on the left-hand side. And this is going to help you to, again, look at individual strengths and needs within each academic area. You can also view a report like you see on the right-hand side. This is our skills plan report, and you can view this for reading or math. And this will dissect either our reading comprehension or our math concepts and applications measures down to the standards and skills areas. Now, if you're a math teacher, we have an additional math report that's called the Individual Math Skills Report. And this can be viewed at the student level like you see here, or it can also be viewed at a group level. And this will help you to view what exact skills need to be addressed, and it will tell you information about students' accuracy and fluency down to the item level. Now, one more piece of information that we don't have out quite yet, but it's coming in August. So this is something that you could potentially look forward to screening, are our SSIS SEL measure. And we are going to be adding this as an optional measure that you can add onto your account to consider students' social and emotional learning skills. So it's really never too late to start considering these things. So you could go ahead and do a sort of a post survey or post rating after summer school is done. And then you can start the new school year understanding the student even better and get them started in a classroom intervention plan like included with this program. So here you can see listed a list of the competency areas that can be assessed on this rating system. And they're going to be all vital for success that students need, both socially and academically.
Thanks, Heather. That's awesome. So like she said, districts are looking for a lot of good data, but then they're also looking for a balance between individualizing, small group instruction that reviews all the essential grade level skills from this year, and meeting students' SEL needs. So getting the growth data that we want to see on those reports this summer is really accomplished with all three things in place. But first, and arguably the most important, is closing gaps by individualizing learning. Now, this is where Classworks can take those AimsWeb results and individualize each student's learning experience.
Exactly. And this is where technology shines, right? Nothing can identify specifically where a student is ready to learn and automatically give students exactly what they need faster than a technology program. Now, for example, in Classworks, you can use both. You can use the AimsWeb data in the platform. The key here is that those results in turn inform each student's individualized learning path and assign them skills that they're ready to learn. Now, this learning path is perfect for summer school students, and they will likely work on concepts that they missed and build toward those new grade level concepts at their own pace. Now, the other data that's important in reviewing skill-specific student mastery throughout your summer program, here at Classworks, we have designed a specific report that will help teachers in the fall look at areas of focus and mastery for students that work on those essential skills and individualized learning over the summer. Now, AimsWeb Plus results automatically inform that student work in the progression and then feed into that data. So let's take a look.
So this summer Classworks report puts all the information in one spot. How many students worked in Classworks? What's the ratio of mastered units to completed units? Then the report looks at how the skills are distributed for the group of students and mastery by domain. Then we can shift to mastery by grade level. Now, this information is going to be vital to teachers and principals in the fall to see where students are thriving and where they'll need more support. Then the final section lays out student usage by domain to see where students are spending their time. So really, no matter what format your school follows, screening to see exactly what students need to catch up on is a part of the summer learning process. Then use those formative assessments to track mastery of daily skills. Finally, post-testing if growth is an important measure at the end of the summer. A nice benefit to a technology program is also the fact that you can make it available to all students district-wide all summer, and then offer the at-risk students the additional opportunities afforded by an in-person summer school. So after knowing that individualized learning can be in place for all learners, let's discuss the instructional focus each day of an in-person summer learning.
Yeah, after talking with systems across the country, we heard the common theme of essential standards. Everyone agrees that in addition to individualized learning, one of the biggest benefits of an in-person summer school is a chance to work in small groups with students on essential standards for the grade level that they've just completed. So for our summer program, we considered the following criteria to identify those essential standards. So we thought about endurance, knowledge and skills of value beyond a single test date. So for example, building vocabulary is important for students to build capacity in reading. So then we thought about leverage, knowledge and skills of value in multiple disciplines. So for example, reading historical or technical texts and being able to use evidence to explain events or sequencing that connects language arts to science and social studies, right? But then we thought about readiness, knowledge and skills that are necessary for success in the next grade level or the next level of instruction. So for example, reading and writing numbers from 100 to 1000 using base 10 connects across your first grade and second grade curriculum in math.
And that makes perfect sense, right? Well, we also heard that the time and energy that goes into finding the right resources to support summer learning is a little daunting for many systems, especially after the last year and a half. So for our Classworks partners, we identified the essential standards and their accompanying resources for each grade for students to work on all summer. The goal of these is to ensure a student is prepared for their upcoming grade. At the end of this webinar, we will show you how to access that pacing guide and the resources that are perfect for general and special education students.
Yep, so after we identified our essential standards and the resources to support teaching them, we really did take a step back and thought about what would be the optimal summer environment for students. So reaching into our social and emotional backpack, we wanted to make sure summer school hit the perfect tone for teachers and students to really fall in love with school again, but also get the much needed skill practice and social interaction that they're craving. So we recommended using rotations as a way to get students up and moving while engaging in learning exercises that will broaden their understanding as well as deepen their learning.
So still keeping in mind that technology fatigue is a reality for many students, but of course, technology does have its place. We're seeing a blended approach to instruction to really ramp up movement and interaction this summer. So the teacher is introducing skills using complex texts and challenging problem-solving activities to make learning fun and interactive. Then for small group instruction, our Classworks partners are using our rigorous Tier 1 reading and math content printed out and used for hands-on learning. And then finally, individualized learning. This is where technology is still key and is the teacher's time saver, as student need is identified using assessment and students have independent time to work on exactly the skills they need.
So next, we thought about meeting the social and emotional needs of students and teachers. Educators are also concerned about the losses and challenges students have faced outside of their studies. We can't expect them to catch up or succeed academically if other needs aren't being met. We know how much of a toll this period has taken on everyone, so the social and emotional needs of our students is a priority.
So one key practice is making sure each day incorporates a time to connect with each other in a meaningful way. Most often we see this opportunity to connect as we start and end the day. We recommend using concepts such as the circle of trust with older students or morning meetings with younger students. Share a purpose for the day or week and discuss the schedule. Perhaps this includes opportunities for students to share with their peers and a teacher their goal for the week, perhaps a compliment for a peer and what they appreciate about each other. Set up environments where students feel free to share their hopes and fears. We considered this when creating our sample schedule, so you will see that included.
Having a variety of learners this summer means that students and teachers need clear expectations and communication, right? Now, to accomplish this, use daily report cards that include positive interventions and supports, especially as students are getting readjusted to the classroom again. Classworks offers digital observations tool for all teachers and students. Now, this resource offers real-time feedback that's immediately accessible to students, parents, and other teachers. This is a great way to encourage positive behavior and strong communication regarding behavioral expectations.
So another practice that we're working with many of our partner districts on is setting goals for students each week of a planned summer school. These can be academic goals or personal goals. They have ongoing collaboration with the teacher as they take the steps to reach their goal each week. Heather's also going to show you how the AimsWeb Plus SSIS SEL can track improvements in social and emotional learning.
Right. To further the approach, you can start your measurement of SEL later this summer using the SSIS SEL, and then continue across the school year, moving into the next summer, and then view the students' progress that they make across the school year, and then even within programs that you provide. So won't it be fun to be able to see the positive impact of your SEL curriculum and strategies that students use for their social emotional well-being? Students like to be able to see the improvements that they're making, and this works really well for them. So let's move on and consider what the academic portions of your programs may look like.
Yeah, thanks, Heather. That's going to be great. So far, we've walked through data, setting goals, and creating the optimal summer environment, right? But what does the day itself look like? So, of course, we have some recommendations for you. Most of our partner districts are planning a half-day schedule for 4 to 6 weeks. So to reflect that, we made the sample schedule that you see here. And we'll go through all the details in just a minute. What's most important is that you make a day that will work best for your population and your summer learning goals.
Exactly. Now, of course, here at Classworks, we believe in the power of technology to close gaps and individualize learning for all students. But we are keeping in mind that students have had a lot of technology time in the last 14 months. So the opportunity to do interactive learning and collaborate safely with their peers and teachers is an absolute must for summer school. You will see as we walk through the recommended resources being used in the station rotations, technology is certainly part of the summer school, but it is not all of summer school. As an example, we're going to share the Classworks resources we're offering our partners for summer school this summer. This summer, individualized learning needs to be paired with hands-on learning opportunities to tie a bow on a truly well-rounded summer experience. As you will also see, these resources are great for students with disabilities to meet IEP goals. Now, let's dive into the logistics of a day.
So to start the day, students will likely grab breakfast before class begins, right? And then the day will kick off with a 15-minute opening meeting. This is a great start to the day, right? Providing that SEL support and setting the stage for the day or the week. It also includes building up classroom trust and vulnerabilities of students and their teacher. And again, this is where that morning meeting is happening. So next, you'll conduct a 15-minute ELA mini lesson. So we recommend using close reading to really bring your ELA instruction to life. So the mini lesson for language arts are driven by using a reading passage for a close read. Teachers will be sure to connect the close read discussion directly back to the daily essential standard, for example, theme. Launch the passage on a whiteboard to read through the passage. Now that first read through could be conducted by the teacher and then dissected more closely using the digital tools. Model how to highlight important details and take notes with the notepad to summarize ideas. Now, subsequent read-throughs could be students partner reading with the printed copies of the text and even skim reading to identify those themes.
So after the mini lesson, we move into a 60-minute ELA block with stations. We can anticipate students being excited to be back around their peers and friends, so no need to try to contain that excitement. Embrace it, right? Get students up and moving with stations to teach those key standards. Utilize a writing station, an opportunity for practice, a project station, and a technology station. Make stations 30 minutes long, so students will do 2 in one day and the other 2 the next day. So after the close read from the mini lesson, the weekly essential standard becomes the focus as students interact more deeply with the passage, highlighting details, summarizing and answering comprehension questions, and executing their projects.
So in rotations, the students will interact with the passage, like this example, the contest for Athens, summarizing ideas and highlighting important details to identify the theme. So here's an example of an annotated printed text where the student highlighted characters and setting, identified ideas from the plot, and then used the notes to summarize. Having the flexibility of printing copies gives students more opportunities to interact with really deeply with that text, making those highlights and adding notes. This is also great to send home to parents for an at-home read aloud. Now, this content is also perfect for tracking IEP goals. Track skills mastered within content this summer to best see student achievement over a short period of time, like a short summer program. All the summer resources that we put together for general education can be used off-level for your special education population. IEP goals are often set up to use data like this to determine goal success. So for example, you can use a passage such as the Classworks classroom reading passages that we looked at earlier to measure an ELA skills goal. Now, you may also be setting goals with your AimsWeb Plus general outcomes. So Heather's going to jump in here and show us some examples for reading.
So you can use your spring reading screening data to set new summer goals, or if you didn't collect spring data, you can certainly start right from where you're at. And you can also continue goals that you may have set in the springtime into the summer. Either way works. So use the same type of measure that you use for screening for monitoring. This is a seamless approach for assessment, using the same measures that you use screening to monitoring. So in this case, this is a goal setting screen, and the goal is set using the oral reading fluency measure. The baseline score, or your beginning score, is set from the spring screening data. But if you're starting off with an on-level goal for your summer school, you simply start with establishing a baseline score from screening data, just like you see here on the left-hand side. But if you need to monitor off grade level, that's also an option. In that case, you would just collect a little bit more data through our survey level assessment feature, and then decide what baseline you want to start with. AimsWeb Plus's goal setting screen you see here makes it really easy for you to set the length of time, the frequency of the data collection, and the end goal score and percentile. When you select your goal here, your goal is going to be based on student growth percentiles. And these are norms that help you to determine what is reasonable for growth, but what is also ambitious so that we can close a gap. Don't forget to document your instructional plan that you're using through Classworks before you save your plan. Now, once you've done this, you are going to immediately be able to see your report. And this is what it looks like. Then you're going to proceed by collecting data either weekly or bi-weekly through the duration of the plan. So note that AimsWeb Plus will document the instruction that you're providing down toward the bottom, and you can document any adjustments that you make to your plan and to your instruction as your data informs the need for the change. So see how this might look after data has been collected. In this example, a student's initial intervention plan or instruction was not working very well for them. So the teacher noticed right away, and then they noticed the need to make an adjustment. And then the student made gains and met their goal on time. So being as informed as you go is very helpful to make sure that students stay on track as quickly as possible. Summer school is not a very long duration of time, so you really want to make the most of it. And you can do that using very short, sensitive measures like AimsWeb Plus provides. So next, Judy is going to speak about goals specific to IEPs.
Thanks, Heather. Yep, Heather just walked us through tracking those goals using general outcomes. And now sometimes you have to track skill-specific goals for student IEPs, and here's where Classworks comes in. This sample IEP goal focuses on the ability to find the main idea of a text. Now, we know that this skill is critical for developing and improving reading comprehension, right? So a Classworks passage like this serves as a resource for close reading, but can also serve as the resource for assessing a student's proficiency within a skill, such as identifying main idea. Structured reading passages like these have multiple choice questions and a constructive response question. So make sure that students have opportunities to annotate and take notes in order to thoroughly engage with the text. So for example, students summarize that main idea in the sticky notes, highlight those supporting details, and answer comprehension questions to further meet that IEP goal.
So then next at stations, all students will work on a project-based performance task. For this project, My Fantasy Story, students discuss the factors that make a fantasy story different from a true story. Then they use the accompanying worksheet to organize their ideas for their own fantasy story. Students draft, edit, and publish their own illustrated stories. Here's a published example of My Fantasy Story. This teacher had students type stories on the computer and then use clip art to illustrate. Again, students are connecting back to that standard to develop a clear theme for their story as well. So centers and rotations are a great way to get a mix of socialized yet structured learning time. They keep students engaged, up and moving, all while focusing on the essential standard for the week, and even better, they get a break from screen time.
So next, take a 15-minute break, right, between those blocks, like a short recess or a snack time, something like that. So after that breather, head into the math section of the day. This is going to start also with that 15-minute math mini lesson. Now, again, this quick lesson highlights and focuses a key skill or concept. So for our Classworks summer math program, the mini lessons for us feature short videos. These videos really support teachers who may be teaching a different grade level from this summer from the one that they teach during that school year.
And then onto the 60-minute math block with stations. Now, the math stations are much like ELA. In stations, the students will apply the concept with a correlated classroom math activity. This activity is a differentiated problem set. Each activity has 3 differentiated problems and 1 investigation problem for critique and precision, and they're all addressing the same standard. These problems may be printed out so students can use manipulatives, draw their models, and write out their thinking.
So here's an example of a printed classroom math activity brought to life in a classroom. This one was worked out in a small group to facilitate math conversation and guide students through productive struggle. It's important to incorporate manipulatives like graph paper, geoboards, and snap cubes to build student conceptual understanding, right? So here you can also think about your special education population and think about using AimsWeb Plus general outcomes to measure growth throughout the summer as well. So just like in reading, you may be setting goals with AimsWeb Plus general outcomes. So Heather's going to jump in again and share some examples for math.
This is going to look familiar. Just like with reading, your spring math screening data can be used to set your new summer goals, or you can just continue with goals that you're working on in the spring moving into summer. And again, you could go off grade level if you needed to. And so in this case, the goal is set using the number comparison fluency pairs measure, and the baseline was set off of spring data. And then you can just go ahead and set your goal and your duration and your frequency. And then once again, you're going to be able to make sure that that goal is very ambitious, but also reasonable for a student. Again, remember to indicate the Classworks intervention plan that you plan to use, as well as any instruction that you're using. Now, once again, here is an example of a math monitoring report that's set over a summer schedule. And you'll just keep collecting data weekly or biweekly through the duration of the plan and make informed decisions and document any adjustments along the way. And so in the end, we hope that the choices that you've made in instructional planning will be very informative with your data or informed by your data and result in students making ambitious gains.
Now, as you're doing your instructional planning for math that Heather's referring to, look to Classworks classroom math, right, for those resources. These activities support skill-specific IEP goals too. So here's an example of a sample goal using an interactive problem-solving activity. Now, this goal is to solve word problems using adding and subtracting fractions. A classroom math activity like this not only provides great hands-on problem solving for students, but is perfect documentation for this goal. So look for the problem set based on one standard and one scenario. The problem should be differentiated and increase in complexity as students work through each problem. Now, Classworks classroom math aligns directly to that identified skill and track student progress as they work through higher order thinking processes. The IEP goal is documented as students work through each problem in that activity.
And then again, next in the station rotation, all students work on a project each week. This project, Video Weekend, has students make a pamphlet to advertise a video film festival. The lesson plan and worksheet guide students to select films for their festival, then create a schedule based on film running times. Here you see the example of the project. The students had to apply their knowledge about adding fractions of an hour to make sure everything runs smoothly. Then the student made a presentation to promote the films and advertise the event. Projects can be done as a group project or individually. Just kind of mix it up this summer. So then as students work in rotations, their technology station provides more documentation for skill-specific goals in student individualized learning paths. Individualized learning is critical in addressing the foundational skills students need to master in order to move on to more complex concepts. For example, in Classworks, students are assigned skill-specific units they are ready to learn based on this AimsWeb Plus assessment data.
And this ensures that students are working on exactly what they need in order to close gaps and be prepared for their next level of learning. And this applies to special education as well. IEP goals are often written to improve areas of weakness identified by programs like AimsWeb Plus, right? Identify those areas, set a goal, and then track your skills. Filtering by domain, for example, to not only make sure students are working on the most relevant instruction for them, but also have the documentation that you need to reflect a mastered or not mastered IEP goal. The benefit to using resources like these this summer is the flexibility to offer students rigorous instruction at the levels they need, while additionally providing documentation and evidence that teachers need to support those IEP goals. Then end the day with a review of that daily essential skill. This is a great time to have students present their projects to the group, and then the last 15 minutes of the day is reserved for the wrap-up circle or closing ceremony. Offer time for students to reflect on their day, their hopes and their fears and their daily goals. This is a perfect way to cap off the day and start the next one with a fresh start. Regardless of the schedule, like class changes, it's important to find reflection opportunities. So as we've walked through this example, summer school day, I know there will be many exceptions. Your program may have more time or less time. The important thing is to focus on your goals and make sure that you're addressing the needs of a variety of learners, such as your special education students, who are a critical part of summer learning and have very specific needs.
Right, and whether they have their own extended school year program or they're included in your general ed summer school, you can use these resources to meet your IEP goals as well. So both the resources we talked about for the stations and to meet IEP goals are easily available to our Classworks partners in our summer learning pacing guide. You'll simply go to help.classworks.com and go to summer school resources. Everything you need is right here. There's an article explaining how we identified essential standards, the options for individualized learning this summer, the sample schedules we saw today, and what all our teachers love, the pacing guides for math and ELA. So hopping into math, you see that teachers have access to all grades. So looking at third grade, you see the essential standards for each week, the link to the mini lesson, the Classworks classroom math activities for the week, and the links to the lesson plans and resources for projects. Everything you need this summer. We recently held a virtual summer school workshop detailing how to use all these resources, which we'll be glad to send. So no matter how your students with disabilities are learning this summer, there are some best practices to follow to track IEP goals. As you can see, all the summer resources we just walked through are also perfect for students with disabilities. It's important to make sure teachers have access to all levels of content to easily pull the exact level each student needs. So thank you so much for taking the time to participate in today's webinar. It's such a pleasure to partner with school districts across the country, and of course, AimsWeb Plus by Pearson, and then to share all the awesome ideas and plans for the summer.
And hopefully you found some takeaways that you can apply to your summer program. And of course, if you're in our Classworks or AimsWeb family, we will be glad to help you in any way that we can. And if you're new to Classworks or AimsWeb and would like to learn more, please feel free to message a team member in chat. I really hope you got some great ideas for your summer school planning today, and we'd love to know what you decide. We know there are going to be some awesome things happening. And I know that we had some questions coming in, so I think we have a little bit of time for a Q&A.
We sure do. We've gotten a couple of really good questions coming in. But before we get to those, guys, if you have any other questions, you can use the chat feature at the bottom of your Zoom window to go ahead and ask us any question you've got. We've definitely got the time to answer. But to kick it off, how exactly do AimsWeb Plus and Classworks work together?
So that is a great question, and we want to show you that. So what happens is, this is the Classworks dashboard, and then if you click on the test data button there, what you can see is every single night, automatically, Classworks gets an input from Pearson of all the AimsWeb scores that your district has. So you can see you have a running list of all the data coming out from all the assessments that you're administering. And what's happening is Classworks is looking at those results every night. And then when you click on individualized learning, it's actually impacting the exact skills that are turned on for every single student to work on. So you know that every time they take that AimsWeb Plus assessment, it's modifying that learning plan when the student logs on to Classworks to learn new concepts. So it's really a seamless partnership that doesn't require the teacher to go find all the right resources, right, for that instructional planning. They know that AimsWeb Plus data has been automatically put to work in Classworks.
That's awesome. Thank you for answering that, Melissa. Our next question is, how do I get access to the summer learning instructional resources you showed us today?
Awesome. So, yep. So in our, you can definitely, if you're in our Classworks family, you can just go to your help.classworks.com. Like Melissa said earlier, it is just your summer learning resources. Let's see, let me move over here a little bit. And that's where everything is. And then you pick your grade levels, and you'll go to every single, all the essential standards that we've lined up. Again, this is set up to be like a 6-week program. So there are basically 2 a week to go through, right? To really shore up what kids need to bring with them to their next grade level, right? So that's all here. If you would like to have play around in it and you're new to Classworks, please just let us know. We'll definitely get you going in the right direction.
Awesome. It looks like we have one more here. Do my students need to reassess when summer school ends?
We'll let Heather take that.
Yeah, I can certainly take a poke at that one. So it all sort of depends on what you want to plan. We definitely encourage some level of a measure at the end of summer school. We can do that either through when you've been doing the progress monitoring. There, of course, you'd be getting data every week or every other week, however often you select to choose this. Otherwise, another option that you can do, if you've already screened and used your spot for that, you can go into the area called survey level assessment, and you can get a spot check of any measure or any grade level that you'd like to see how the students are doing after summer school.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Heather. So those were all the questions that I had. Why don't we give it just another minute more and see if anything else comes through the chat. This was a great presentation. So thank you, Melissa, Judy, and Heather. And thank you to our audience as well. You guys have been awesome. So we'll just hold out for a minute or so more just to see if anything else comes in through the chat. I just had a question about Classworks and pricing. And if you have any questions related to bringing Classworks into your school or district, I would definitely advise you to reach out through classworks.com. If you use a little chat bubble on our website, they'll get you talking to someone in your area who can provide clarity as far as pricing goes. I guess that's it. Everybody who registered for today's webinar is going to get a video copy of it as well as the Q&A that we went through at the end. So just keep an eye on your inbox for that.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye. Have a great summer.